Hey, I know, like, you know where I'm at, like, hey, Jeff, no, I got you, brody. Look, hey, let's go, hey.
What is it?
Real life, real talk, never fall, we ain't doing that. Want me fall off, but I can't, I'm just too attached. I was so lost, I ain't going back. Never fall, never fall. We on the road, we on the road. Every day like the Olympics gon' go. I'm in control, I thought you should know. Real life, real talk, never fall.
Hey guys, what's up? This is our second episode together, but it's the fourth one. These lovely gentlemen are back with me today, so we're here to talk a little bit, answer some questions, and yeah, glad everyone liked the first episode. It's good to see everyone doing ridiculous range of motion on their leg press because of Denver.
Not me.
But yeah, I mean, it's good. That's what we want. So, as you will probably know, I just got back from the States and I went to a few shows. And I wanted to use today as a way to kind of obviously a lot of our listeners are going to be from New Zealand, so I want to kind of just talk about some of the things I noticed and I picked up while I was there. So the biggest thing that I kind of realized, I already knew this, but it really hit me, was how privileged pros in New Zealand are for the amount of opportunities they've had over the years with being able to do pro shows on home soil. Because like the amount of, even put the money aside for going overseas and doing shows, the amount of like just stress, like flying all that way, trying to like get your meals organized in a different country, getting to the supermarket, all those things you don't really think about, you take for granted here. It's a big deal. So it kind of like makes me wonder why more people don't take advantage of that when they're given the opportunity. Because I know like Denver's a perfect example. He would chomp at the bit for that opportunity in New Zealand. He hasn't been able to do it because there hasn't been an open pro show for him to do while he's been a pro. But there's been a lot of opportunities, and a lot of the time, a lot of people haven't taken them. So yeah, it was just like I think like for if you're listening and you are wanting to go pro and you do go pro, and you get that opportunity, I think you're crazy not to take it. That's just my opinion. And there's not much to discuss about that. That was just something I observed. And I think, yeah, like in recent years, I can't remember, maybe the last 5 years or whatever, there's been consistent pro shows in different categories. And yeah, it's definitely a privilege. Obviously, it is hard in New Zealand because we are far away. But so that's even more reason though. So when you get that opportunity, you should take it. But what I wanted to talk about was the first show I went to was a pro-am. So it was amateurs and it was pros. And I was backstage. So I walked backstage and I swear to God, like there was probably 30 bikini competitors that were amateurs and there was like 25 or something that were pros. And I could not tell the difference. Like, and it was one of the biggest shows of the year for bikini. I could not tell the difference for majority of the girls. Like the level of the amateurs and over there is like, wow, like it's crazy. Like we already know this, we already know the levels, blah blah blah. But when you see it, it's a big, you're like, wow, this is crazy. Like I kept asking Mandy, I was like, is that girl pro or is she amateur? Is she a pro? Man, she knew because she knows all the girls. But yeah, it was a bit of a shock. And what it kind of makes you realize is, I'm not talking the levels, like the physiques, whatever, but the mindset difference for me is the biggest thing. Because these girls, and then we're going to get you guys' opinion on this in a minute, but these girls, like, they look like this for a reason, right? Like, they're not just doing a 12-week prep and looking like this. Like, this is like a year-round thing, and that's what I try so hard to, like, get into people's heads here, especially with people I work with, is like, it's not, like, very few people are taking it seriously year round. And what I wanted to ask you guys is, I've been asked this myself in Q&A boxes and stuff in the past, but what do you guys reckon the biggest reason, if you had to think of the one thing that's the biggest difference for New Zealand competitors versus, say, competitors at that level in the States? And I'm not talking about pros, I'm talking about amateurs, but like the upper ends of each. What do you think is the biggest difference for the reason behind like the difference in levels? Like obviously there's lots of reasons, but what do you guys think are the main ones?
Denver. Off you go, bro.
All right, sweet. Honestly, biggest difference, I feel like most people, especially if you notice in New Zealand, like on social media and stuff like that, starting out prepping without actually putting in years of training. You know, I always see these hashtags coming up, road to pro. I'm like, you've done one show, you know? Whereas if you look at these amateurs overseas, they're competing. They're like seasonal competitors. They've been putting in years and years and years of work. And that's why you notice the level of amateurs overseas compared to New Zealand, just a whole different level. They look like pros. And when they do turn pro, they already competitive to beat pros. Compared to over here, I feel like people, like, they're just jumping in it too soon, not taking the off season as serious as they need to. Hitting up coaches kind of wanted to do like 12-week preps. You know what I mean? Like, what are you going to cut? You know, if you haven't taken the time to build like a foundation, what's there to peel back from? You know, put in that time in the off season, and then slowly chip away. You know, like a 20-week prep is probably ideal. 16 maybe if you're in really good shape. But I say for most girls, females especially, I feel like a 20-week prep after a good solid off season would be even start to consider getting on stage. So I feel like a lot of that's lacking. A lot of people are just jumping on stage, just rushing themselves on stage, you know? So I feel like that shows when you haven't put in the time on stage. So I'd say, you know, like, build that foundation before even starting to consider to get on stage.
Yeah. And I think from my perspective, it's a different expectation of what you're going to present, if that makes sense to you guys. Like, you know, when I moved to even Australia, the standard here is different across the board. It's not that the guys that are good top level competitors in New Zealand are competitive anywhere, especially at the amateur level. A little bit different in the pros, but especially at the amateur level, and we have had some really good pros. But what happens is, coming on down from that, I feel like the expectation is a lot lower. So, for example, you know, you could go to you'll watch a show. No disrespect to anybody, because it's just the standard that it's at, right? But you'll watch a show and you'll see a couple of really good guys, and then guys or girls, whatever, and then you'll sort of see it sort of bleeds down into a lot lower quality. So then when I moved here, I noticed the quality was a lot higher. It wasn't like you weren't looking for you know, a guy or girl wasn't standing out because, oh my God, his conditioning's amazing, or he's got this or he's got that. Really, what you were noticing was, oh my God, there's one or two or three people who are well out of shape. So it was a flip from being that just a standard of competition. Then I feel what happens in the States is there's so many competitions, people are competing so frequently, that the standard of what you're going to achieve is a lot higher. So the work is year round. And, you know, listen, it's like any aspect of weight training. If you do what you see around you. So if a person goes and has success at a contest and their conditioning is, you know, less than average, but they do well because of the numbers or because then they think, well, I'm great. And then they don't push past that. Whereas I feel like, which I think is why even no matter where you are, the open men's bodybuilding categories, and I guess now classic as well, even men's physique, they're super competitive because the level of conditioning is so high that you just get annihilated. And if you don't nail it, do you know what I mean? And I see it so much more now in men's physique and the classic, the guys are coming in like freaky conditioned. And almost when I watch the open men's bodybuilding, the standard seems to have, in terms of that really dry, crazy conditioning, seems to have come down a little bit, but it's just what's rewarded by the judges. And so I feel like, you know, Denver, you know, you don't want to compete because, you know, at the moment, because you hold yourself to a really, really high standard. I know that's the same with you, Jordan. So I feel like people don't have that. They don't, whether it's by choice or whether they just don't see it enough. But I feel like it's going to change. Like, to me, you know, 50 years old, it just comes in ebbs and waves. You know, you have a few years when it's really amazing and it sort of peaks a little bit because you've got some great competitors and a lot of, you know, stuff going on. And then it'll sort of die off for a little bit because the standard of the competitors will drop off and and then the new guys will come up. So I feel like, you know, what I see following New Zealand bodybuilding, there's a lot of big guys, like actually quite big guys coming through. And there's some really, it seems like maybe it's with you guys coaching, and you know, there's some other great coaches in New Zealand. There is starting to happen that idea of, no, it's all year round. It's not just a flash in the pan thing. So yeah, I mean, I feel like it can only improve, but the reason why it's not like that at the moment, I would say, from, you know, my estimation, is just because what's an acceptable standard isn't, you know, people, what, you know, I say this, I say this thing like, everybody celebrates mediocrity. Oh wow, look, so good, you got on stage. That's, you got to be, there's got to be something more to it than that, right? And it's what your eyes see. And if we're all high-fiving the, you know, it's like in the gym training, if we're all high-fiving the guy that squats 2 plates, nobody ever needs to squat more. So, and it's the same with conditioning, same with everything.
Hey, relax. Yeah, I know, like, a lot of people bring up like the drug thing, and they're like, oh, they take more gear, and like, no one really knows what everyone's doing anyway. I mean, there's people that take plenty of shit here. Doesn't necessarily mean they're better for it. Maybe they are taking more stuff. I know people personally who are, but like, it's like you guys said, it's just the mindset, the environment, and just understanding that it's like, I've had heaps of clients myself who they've prepped and they've been amazing, like perfect clients, followed the plan, whatever. And then, oh, you know, can't wait to do my first proper off season. It's going to be so good. I've never done one before, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, yeah, cool. Because that's what you need to get to the next step. And then like that whole 9 months or whatever was just bullshit. It was like, follow the diet for 3 days, go off for 3 days. And then, yeah, can you gain muscle that way? Probably, because you're still training. You're still going to be eating in a calorie surplus. But I mean, there's going to be a lot of sloppy weight as well. And then when it comes time to prep, you're having to lose an extra 15 kilo, which isn't ideal, especially if you're competing around mid-50s. And what it generally means is they don't get in the condition that they need to get in. Therefore, the standard doesn't really go up because, yeah, you know what I mean? So, yeah, you guys answered it really well. I don't think I need to, you know, add much to it because I'll just be saying the same thing. But this brings me to the next point. I had a conversation yesterday with a client, and their goal, I won't say the names, but their goal is to be a competitive pro. It's a female and a bikini competitor. They want to be a competitive pro, and they're disciplined. They're disciplined. I can't fault their discipline. Okay, like, I'm not going to say they're perfect, but they're good enough to, you know, really make good improvements. But they're basically saying, like, I'm over it. Like, I want to be able to just eat muffins on the weekend if I want to, and I want to be able to go out to a restaurant on a Wednesday for lunch, and I want to go out for breakfast on a Monday, and I just like and they're saying, like, because and I want to eat protein, like, if I want to have a protein bar instead of a meal, like, I want to be able to do that. And then they went on to say, like, because I see blah 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 doing it, and the people that they mentioned were top Olympians, and all I replied was, you do not have their genetics, and if you've been perfect for all this time and you've progressed the way you have, yet you're still quite far away from your goal, how do you think you're going to continue to improve if you drop back 25%? Because obviously genetics are they're so important in bodybuilding. Like, it's probably the most important thing. We all know people who are extremely gifted and who have progressed at a ridiculous rate, putting in probably half the effort of what is needed. That's just the way bodybuilding can be. So that's what I tried to explain. But what I wanted to bring up to you guys is, like, my answer was, like, what it comes down to is what you're prepared, like, what you need to do to, like, progress at 100 versus what you're willing to do, and meet somewhere in the middle. But if you do that, you have to be okay with, okay, I'm only going to progress 75% of what I could progress. You're still going to progress. I'm not saying you can't. And that's when that whole, like, balance and shit comes in, right? Like, people go on about, like, you can still make progress and have a balanced life. You can. Of course you can. You just can't improve as much. It depends how competitive you want to be. How badly do you want to win? How badly do you want to improve? So what I was just going to bring up to you guys is, like, what would, in your mind, if a client said that to you, in your mind, and I know this is a little bit generic, but what would, like, an optimal off season look like for you guys if you're talking to someone? And what would, on the flip side, what would, like, the off season that someone does where they're putting in, like, the least amount of effort, but they're still able to move the needle forward? Like tell me what you would like. Obviously, optimal off season is just perfect on all perfect in every regard. But like, let's make it realistic, because no one's gonna like Denver will do that. No one else.
I'll take this one first, Denver.
Yeah.
So what I try to tell people is that so once a contest is finished, and you reassess what the next step is for them, and everybody talks about they want balance and they want this and they want that. I mean, the truth is that very few people can get away with if they want to truly progress and hit the level that they need to hit. They can't really have all that free time. But I try to hit I try to, I bring their food up, I bring their protein up, I might give them, a couple of cheat meals a week. So I try to allow for some social activities. I find sometimes when you're having those conversations with people, it's kind of like their minds a little bit washed from things in that period of time. So I do try to get them to hit an 80-20, like a 80% good, 20% bad. I say, just try to eat, I try to get them to map out, if it's 5 meals a day, 7 days a week, I say, well, try to hit 30 of those meals. You know what I mean? So if 5 are off, 30 are on, you're still doing okay. If it drops under 30, then we really need to start to think about focusing a little bit harder. I don't know, man. That's a very tough one, because to me, there's a point at which their brains like snapped a little bit and they're like, okay, I just don't want to do this anymore. And so I will say, okay, so have these meals and have those meals. And I'll sort of, I try to get them to stick to a plan. I say, well, whatever you're doing, plan it, map it, and, or at least record it. So there's some accountability. But yeah, like, if you don't have those crazy genetics, then it's not really, a 50-50 training plan is, ain't getting you anywhere. Listen, I'll say, well, just eating whatever you like and just doing whatever you wanted in the gym that you enjoyed. That's what got you to come to see me. And then we had to do this whole process. So if that's where you want to go, that's not helping you move upwards. So yeah, what I do is I try to track their training. And then, guys, you can tell how well they're doing their nutrition off season by how their training's going. It's pretty simple. And then I try to have conversations with them about it. But, and I'm sure you guys have experienced this. I'm certainly, as a coach, not putting more effort into what they do than they're putting into it themselves. So I'll give them, if their effort is high, I'm like all about it. If I feel that it starts to slip, we have that conversation, and, we either try to amend things, or, we probably have a conversation that says, well, maybe the accountability and what we're doing isn't really panning out. When you're ready for that commitment, that's what we need to do. But if the commitment's not there, so yeah, I would certainly think that somebody who's in the throes of their, professional, wanting to really be competitive as a pro, is, I would think that they need to, there's probably a lot going on there that needs to be spoken about in their own mental.
5 meals a week is way more generous than me.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Listen, exactly.
I hear you,
100%.
Yeah. I hear you for sure. Anything to add,
Denver? Your thoughts, sir?
Yeah.
Mr. 100%.
So, like Jordan said, like a lot of people are comparing themselves to like very, very genetically blessed athletes that they're seeing on social media. These guys could be subpar in their performance in the gym, slack with their diet, and they still end up getting ridiculous progress. And to be honest, that's like such a small percentage of the world, and comparing yourself to that, honestly, is delusional. And I'm an example of that. Like, I know guys in New Zealand that have way better genetics than me, but I'm gonna outwork all of them because I'm gonna stick to my diet. I'm gonna try to get every training session and give everything I've got, because that's what's gonna make up for that. So I feel like if you are an amateur that's wanting to go pro, and if your mindset is, I want to have muffins and I want to off meal multiple times a week, I'll be honest with you, you're not going to be a great pro, because there's going to be people there that are a lot less blessed than you that are going to put in the yards and surpass you. And I see that happen a lot of times, just because they've gotten effort I mean, gotten results with subpar effort, you know? So like, I feel like they slack more rather than putting the hard yards in. And you see that with so many guys that come up and turn pro as well. Like you didn't even expect them to be there, but they've been putting in the work through the year, where the guy with the bliss genetics has been slacking. You know, so like I feel like if someone did approach me and wanted that option, I'll be honest, I'll tell them truthfully, I'm like, it's not gonna happen. You know, like unless you can put in like you said, like a decent amount of effort. Again, I'm talking about guys that want to go pro or females that want to go pro, you know, that I mean, if you want to compete and then a lot of people want to do it as like a bucket list thing, you know, okay, yeah, we can work around things and still try to get you in shape. But if you want to be a pro and a competitive pro and you want to be doing subpar effort, I'll probably just tell them now, like I can't achieve this with you, or I'll be honest with them and be like, it's going to take you twice or thrice as long, because your results that you're going to see at the end of the year are going to be way less than if you put 100% in.
I just say, like, this is what I said. I said, like, you've worked, like, this is what you wanted. Like, when we started, this is what you wanted to be. This is where you wanted to be. You chose this. Like, this was your goal. This is what was important to you. Like, it wasn't my goal, it was your goal. And I don't have a magic wand where I can be like, you know what? Eat whatever you want. Once a day, whatever you want, and you're still going to progress. Like, we can only give, like, this is what I try to tell people, like, we can only give you our honest opinion with what we know is going to work. Just because we're your coach doesn't mean we can say, yeah, that's fine, eat whatever you want and you're still going to be amazing. It doesn't work like that. So like these guys said, like, in my opinion, if you're a serious competitor, unless your metabolism and your body requires it, you shouldn't. I think 1 meal a week off plan is fine. Personally, that's what I give. I give all my clients that off season, just for the mental aspect. There's no benefit to anything other than mental, and unless you're someone who's naturally really skinny, whatever, that's a different topic. But anyway, I give them that, and sometimes for some people I give them more if they need it, if they can't gain weight or whatever. But if outside of that, anything is just going to be you're not going to get to where you want to be. And I'm lucky that majority of the people I'm working with are wanting to be competitive and wanting to, like, they're not wanting to go the easy road. So I don't really have to deal with trying to, you know, make it. It just doesn't suit me. People know this about me though. It doesn't suit me. So I don't need to be like, let's do 80-20, because, like, yeah, you can progress, but it's just,
You're like, let's do 98 too.
yeah. But you know what I mean? But yeah, like, I think we're all on the same page. Like, let's be real. If you're wanting to be serious, like, 1 meal a week is fine off season until prep starts. And then during comp prep, obviously you might have refeeds, but it's not really something that's planned every week. It's like when it's needed. I'll sometimes get people be like, oh, like, I should have a cheat meal every week because it makes me lose fat faster. No, it doesn't. Like, get that out of your head. Makes you lose fat faster. No, it doesn't. You just like the taste. But yeah,
I mean, listen, from my perspective, you know, you're talking to somebody, and you go, oh, he's about to fold. Okay, bro, go and have a cheat meal.
Yeah.
And then they're like, oh, you have a cheat meal, train better the next day. You know, it's time. But it's just really like, because I'm watching him thinking, oh, he's going to, I give him the cheat meal or the whole train's going to crash.
And there's one more thing I want to bring up before I get, because I got a lot of questions, but I just want to bring up something because I want you guys to say it as well, because I get this question all the time and it's so annoying. Everyone asks me, what will the last few days look like? Or what will the last week look like? Like, not everyone, but I get it all the time, especially from people who are like, haven't competed or wanting to compete, or have like only done a few shows. And what I tell them is, we have no idea what it's going to look like until we get there. Because if I told you what it's going to look like, that would be a cookie cutter diet or a cookie cutter plan. Therefore, like, you know what I mean? Like, why are you hiring me if I'm going to give you a cookie cutter plan? So everything you do in the last week is literally taken day by day, and at some point, meal by meal, hour by hour.
Yeah.
So you can't predict it. And if you do just plan it out, if a coach ever just gives you like, here's your last week written down, follow this, it might work, but that's not how you peak someone. So if someone ever does that, I suggest getting a different coach. But are we on the same page here, guys?
For sure. Yeah.
So you guys have all heard it from Denver and Harry that you don't need to stop asking me that. Stop asking me.
Yeah, I mean that's exactly how I do it. I mean, yeah, it literally is down to, you know what it's like, Jordan. I've worked with you.
Exactly.
It's the last couple of days of send me a photo, send me a photo, send me another goddamn photo.
Go eat some
Every
burgers,
meal, send
go
me a
eat a
photo,
pizza.
have a nap, send me a photo,
Yeah.
drink this.
Yeah.
Yeah, it should always. I mean, I feel like there is no. The whole prep's like that, really. Do you know what I mean? I guess all three of us, everybody that coaches people has a plan and in a way that we kind of formulate things, but it is totally dependent on the response.
So
how the person's body responds, what's going on, you know, right from the very beginning of the diet to the last few days of the prep. Everything is completely related to what's going on with their body and how it's responding and what we're seeing. So yeah, I'm with you there, bro. There's here's your week out plan.
For everyone listening, you probably already know, but me and Harry done a lot of preps over the years, and we always had like a plan. Like we would have a plan from Monday to Saturday. We would have a plan, and honestly, sometimes we actually didn't even change it. But majority of the time, we would have that plan, and then Thursday would come and okay, let's add this, and then Friday would come and meal 5, oh, let's change it to this. Like that's how it kind of works. So it's okay to have the plan, but you got to understand that it's going to change. It's going to change because your body's unique, and it's going to do things that are, you know, you don't expect, or you do expect, but you don't know how much, you know, like. And a lot of the time you'll play it very cautious because you don't want to spill over. You want to be tight, so you'll be cautious, and then you usually realize, okay, we're too cautious, or all the other way around. Blah 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 blah. So anyway, moving on. I got some real good questions. The first one is, can you go all the way in wellness without PEDs? And I'll start on this one just because it's a little bit broad. So I just want to kind of like outline what I think they mean. So all the way to me means like winning the Olympia in bodybuilding. I mean, all the way is going all the way. So winning the Olympia, and the short answer is no, you can't. No, you can't. You simply cannot, in my opinion. This is my opinion. You guys might disagree, but no, you can't. However, if they didn't mean it to be that extreme and we go back, can you go pro naturally? Yes, you absolutely can. Can you be competitive in pro shows? If you're extremely blessed with your genetics, and I mean extremely blessed, unless you're talking about pro shows that no one's doing. But if it's a general pro show, you would have to be like a genetic, like we were talking about before, someone extremely blessed. And even then it's like, because what people probably don't realize is a lot of people, when they, in my opinion, just through conversations, people think, 10 mgs of anavar, blah, blah, blah. I'm not even talking about that. Like the people at the highest level in this class, and I can't speak for everyone. I can only talk about things that I've heard or been shown. It's a lot more than that, and it's not just that. It's other things as well. So, yeah, we're not here to bullshit, but at the same time, we're not here to promote it either. I want to clear that up as well. But yeah, that's my opinion. Yes, you can turn pro. I mean, you can look really fucking good as well. You can. But you're not going to win the Olympia without using something. At the end of the day, it's bodybuilding. And the girls in that class have a lot of muscle. Like their legs, the amount of muscle in their lower bodies is like crazy. And it is what it is. You guys.
Who's going?
You go, Denver.
Cool. Like the first thing I see, especially when it comes to wellness, I feel like the most. I feel like a lot of girls don't realize how much muscle these girls actually have overseas on their lower body. And that's like in condition, big solid quads, hammies, glutes, whereas you see a lot of athletes over here, they, have a bit, and again, I don't mean this in a bad way, a lot more body fat in their lower body. And for that reason, they think they're wellness. There's a difference between body fat and muscle. And a lot of them, when you diet them down, they're bikini competitors. Or they haven't gotten in really good shape to actually even realize that they are bikini competitors. They're still holding a lot of body fat in the lower body, so they feel like, okay, I'm full of my lower body. This is wellness. So I feel like answering your question about PEDs, to be a pro and competitive as a pro, honestly, like it's gonna be very, very, very rare for a female to be able to achieve that level, that amount of muscle, that extreme conditioning without PEDs?
I mean, I feel like it's hard enough. So the level of muscular conditioning and development, even in bikini now, is so far removed from what it was when those classes were first initiated, that I think in order to be a truly successful bikini pro is difficult, because even if you've got phenomenal genetics, whatever class you're doing, there's a certain level of competition that you're going to get to where everybody's got the same genetics. They're just doing more than you are. They're more disciplined. They're using PEDs. They're doing this. They're doing that. So in order to be competitive, it's very difficult. And yeah, like you were saying, Denver, to have the amount of muscle that's required, you'd have to be some kind of real genetic specimen to I feel like even turn pro, depending where you turn pro. But yeah, I think there's a lot in there. There's a lot in there. And as you were saying again, I think a lot of people misassess what class their body is the best suited for. So, often ladies who are heavier in the lower body will go, well, I've got a wellness body. And you're like, no, mate. You don't. But it's like when guys say, it's like when I look at the guys and they're like, a guy's got like he's a small guy and he's like, well, I've got a classic physique. And no, you don't, bro. That's not your physique shape. So you don't have the classic small hips and the wide shoulders and the flaring muscle bellies. Your best bet's just to do bodybuilding and put on as much muscle as you can. Do you know what I mean? So people sort of look at a class and they want to do that, and their eyes aren't where they're at. But yeah, to turn pro natural.
I just want to add as well, because like people have this thing where like they hear this and they'll be like, oh, so I'm not gonna get that level because I don't want to take the drugs. And like there's so many people that take this shit and they don't look anything like that. Like the amount of work, like the way these girls have to train to look like that, to make their legs get that developed, is like absurd. Like the intensity and the effort and the consistency and like, I'm not talking like I train hard once a month. These girls train their lower bodies 2-3 times a week, maybe more. I don't know. Depends on who it is. But it's like they're training so hard. Yeah. And it's like all the time. And it's like to build that muscle as well. It's not just the training. It's like they're living like bodybuilders all the time. They're living like male top level bodybuilders, eating their meals and blah, 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 blah. And that's the biggest thing. And then obviously, they're going to take stuff on top. They're also genetically blessed. And it's just like Harry said, it's just a combination of everything coming together.
And look, and I'd like to say, just sort of as an add-on to that I don't, it's not like I'm saying, they're doing more of this or they're doing more of that, and that makes a massive, in some way that means they don't have to do all the other things right. Of course they have to do everything right. It's just an extra add-on. And to your point, to sort of like the question was directed at, can you go to the top, get to the highest level without PEDs? No, I don't think so. But can you completely transform your body so that it is unrecognizable for the one you're walking around in today, and just turn it into this amazing physical specimen, and have an amazing physique, wonderful conditioning, and everything just perfect? Yeah, you can. So you can completely turn yourself around. It's just, is that going to hit the bodybuilding criteria and make you a pro competitor? You know what I mean?
I mean, yeah, like we said, turning pro is one thing, but then being a top pro is a whole different.
Yeah.
Hey,
listen, I mean, I think for a lot of people, it's just, a lot of people are like, I can't be a pro, so I'm not going to do all these other things. You're like, dude, you can have like an amazing physique. You can be in great condition. You can be fit. You can do this and that. You can also have, if you're at that level where you're just if you just train and devote yourself and really give yourself some time and effort, you can have a physique that's, puts you in the top 5% of people walk around on the street. It's probably not going to put you on a bodybuilding stage beating a bunch of bodybuilders, but you can have an amazing body. We see them all the time on Instagram.
The next one is, I feel like we've kind of already covered it like a million times, but just to make sure we haven't, common first-timer mistakes you see. Let's not bring up not having a coach, because that's obvious. But is there anything you guys have seen that maybe we haven't spoken about, other than like not dieting long enough?
First time competitor or first time into?
First time competitor, like doing their first show, someone doing their first show. What's the common things that they do wrong that they could do better?
I think they overwork and under diet.
All the other way around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. One or the other. But
Yeah.
it's like what I tend to find is that most people who first time competitors, they've trained a lot, they've got a physical background and they, whatever. And they're like, okay, so I'm just going to diet. I'm going to train and train. Because most people can put the time into to at least do the cardio and do what they think their version of hard training is. But it's the diet that's the biggest struggle for most people. So I find that like it's generally just their expectation of what they're going to be able to achieve is sometimes quite unrealistic. And then, you know, they'll do the cardio, they'll train, but sticking to the diet in a meaningful way is difficult. And listen, it's hard work formulating the diet, let alone sticking to it, you know, if you don't have any understanding. So that's what I find. For me, it's mostly just that the expectation, what I see is that the expectation, it's all of it. The expectation is unrealistic, the diet sucks, and the training intensity's low.
Yeah. Denver?
I'd say biggest part when it comes to like someone getting into it for the first time, I feel like the biggest struggle would be, I feel anyway, would be the nutritional side of things. Because most of them that get into competing or want to compete are training to some extent. They're consistent, they're in the gym every week. But when it comes to breaking down the diet, meal after meal, every meal on time, you know, getting your calories week after week, I feel like that's where first time competitors start to slack off, because it's so much easier to fall off the diet or reach for a cheat meal and give yourself a cheat meal or a refeed when it's not needed. So I feel like the consistency of being able to buckle down and do that week after week, I feel a lot of struggles there. I mean, like intensity with training and stuff like that comes in as well. But I'm just saying, as a beginner, I feel like I see a lot struggle when it comes to the food side of things, either under eating or overeating.
Yeah. So yeah, 100%. A few other things that I'm trying to think of, like other things other than just the diet. But one thing that is big that you guys will agree on is like asking too many people for help. Like they have their coach, but then they're asking Denver, they're asking Harry, and they're asking me, and we're all giving different answers, and they're getting confused, and they're doing everything wrong.
Yeah.
Like Denver told him, "Oh, bro, you're flat as, bro. You need a refeed. Go have a refeed." And Harry was like, "No, you don't need one." So then he's gone and had it, and now he's guilty. So now he's doing like an extra hour's cardio, and like it's just that's what people do, and it's frustrating, especially when the person doesn't really understand what they're doing, and it generally happens towards the end of the prep as well, when it's like the crunch time. Who would want to go off plan at the end of a prep? Oh, anyway, yeah, that's one thing. The other thing I think with guys is they don't practice the posing enough.
Yeah,
for bodybuilders. And they might know how to hit a front double, but doing it on stage is way different. I don't think I've ever been on stage myself and not thought, oh, I should have practiced. I practice posing a lot, but I'm like, oh, like it's hard. Like it's hard. It's like cardio up there. So that, and on the flip side, this is a little bit, I don't want this to come out wrong, because I don't want to like discourage people from practicing posing, but a lot of girls, especially like I've worked with them, every day I see them like putting on Instagram like a reel of they're doing their posing routine as like a bikini competitor, but like their focus on their training is like this, but like I'm practicing posing, and like everything's just about their posing, which obviously is important, because if you're not presenting yourself well, you're not going to look good. But if you don't have a physique to pose, it doesn't matter how you pose. So it's like you've just spent an hour posing, which probably should have been cardio, because you are not in shape and you look 6 weeks behind. And obviously this is not everyone. I'm not saying that. And again, I'm not trying to make people not do it, but I guess what I'm saying is like balance your priorities. Have your time for your posing, but make sure when you're training, you're actually training hard and you're not just putting a few clips up for Instagram. Yeah. Like I just feel like there's more, I'm not going to say passion, because that's okay, but there's just more like effort and intent with doing the posing and stuff versus the actual stuff that's going to build the physique, like following the diet and eating and training really hard and with in Denver's words, with purpose. That's what I see. So I'm just, like I said, I'm just trying to think of other things. But basically, like if you're a first-time competitor and you just get a coach that you actually trust, a coach that has a track record of working with people that have the similar goal to you, and you just do everything they say, and you just fully commit to them. Of course, if something's like alarming, like for example, if you're someone who's taking PEDs, which you probably shouldn't be if it's your first show, but if you were and it seemed, oh, that seems like a lot, obviously that's different. But just in general, like the diet, the training, just follow what they say. You'll look how you look at, like, question after the show, but leading up to the show, just follow the plan and do it with intent. Like do it like you mean it. Like when you go to the gym, don't just go to the gym and do some squat, like squat like your life depends on it. Honestly, like I know how dramatic that sounds, but that's just like you should want to anyway, because if you're competing, you should be where's the passion? Show me some passion. But yeah,
you're right.
That's that's kind of how I see it. That's kind of how I see it. And to be honest, I will also add that I feel like the mindsets and the effort of first timers is getting better and better and better and better every year. Like I've got some clients this year who are competing for the first time, and they're treating it like they've done 20 shows. Like I'm so impressed with like how they've, like it's still early days, so I'm not going to get ahead of myself, but the way they've handled it so far in terms of like the effort in the gym, the way they're training, the way they listen, like I'll correct their form the next time I see a video. It's like they've just picked up everything. Like they're following the diet, they're not asking for cheat meals, like so it is really good across the board. But just as a whole, that's
I think the key thing there, Jordan, is that they're getting coaching.
Yeah, but
so it is very, so you know that, and I think that's becoming very prevalent now, which is really helping because people have got better direction. It's very hard when you're, especially now, there's so much information to sift through the information to work it out for yourself. So yeah, when people don't have that and they're listening to 1,000, I think the biggest mistake is just taking too much advice and not being able to sort of arrange it in a meaningful way that's going to get them where they want to go. So so we're I guess we all, we see the same things, and as much as it seems a bit trite to sort of constantly repeat it, the best thing you can do is get somebody to direct you. But some people like to do things on their own.
So when you guys pick up a client for the first time, how do you guys set up? Like how do you guys go about setting them up in terms of like the nutrition and whatnot, training and blah 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 blah? What are the steps you guys take? Do you have steps, or do you just what? If I sign up with you right now, hey, I want to do a show. Here's my money. How are you what goes through your mind when you write my diet?
Yeah, you go, Denver. You go.
No, you go ahead. All right, I'll go. First, one thing would be just assessing the physique. Okay, like, are they signing up with me to compete? Is that right?
Just a generalized question. Just someone wanting to work with you for whatever reason.
I feel like biggest thing starting out would try to build consistency. Like even if I'm going to give them a plan to execute, I feel like most people starting out, again, I don't mean everybody, starting out are going to struggle with consistency, and trying to build that for them, like week after week, I feel like is the hardest challenge. Getting in every training session, doing their cardio, getting their meals in. So I feel like setting that up, I feel like initially going too strict with things, I feel like might set some people up to fail. And I try to gradually get things a bit stricter. Again, that will vary person to person, but like obviously diet, training, cardio and stuff like that.
What do you look at though when you write their diet? Like if you're going to write a diet, say you're going to write a diet for me. What would you look at?
Write a diet for you. First thing I'd actually go to is like what are you eating currently? I don't have a plan for you ready to go before you even tell me what you're eating, what's causing you digestive issues, or what bloats you, or it's just breaking down things that you prefer to eat or can't eat and stuff like that. It's just trying to get as much information as I can out of you so I can personalize it to you. Like I hate when I see plans, like 10 plans, they all look the same, like everybody's on like chicken and broccoli and on this cookie cutter diet, I feel like we're kind of getting out of that now with more and more coaches and doing a good job with their clients. I feel like I saw more of that back in the days. But like again, you, Harry, I could see like there's a lot more depth and detail into the diet. than, you know, just giving them something to go off right off the bat kind of thing. So if you were to come to me and wanted to start off with a diet, yeah, it would be sitting down with you and trying to get as much information as I can.
Sounds good. Harry?
Yeah. So here's what I do.
Who's a napkin?
If I get, so I'll get a client, they'll tell me, we'll work out what their goal is. So their goal might be to lose weight. They might be 95 kilos. I might look at them, think, going by, you know, judgment, experience, this and that, I might think, you know what, 85 kilos, they'll start to look pretty good. So then I'll set up a diet that bases itself around them being 85 kilos. Generally what I do is, okay, so right off the bat, what I'm going to say is there are 1,000 formulas to work out what you need to give somebody based on their BMR and all this other stuff, right? I kind of feel those things are a little bit redundant, because at the end of the day, we're all just trying to find ways to, we're all kind of guessing when it starts. The starting off diet, that, you know, where their protein's at, where their carbs are at, what you're doing with carb timing and the types of carbs. We're just making educated guesses based on our experience. So I set up a diet for the first couple of weeks based on what their goal is. First of all, really what I'm trying to do is almost just find a starting point, because they come to you, they don't, if I've asked them all the questions, because I do ask them questions about, you know, digestive issues, what they're currently eating, you know, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then I work off that as a plan in terms of amounts of food, how much protein they're having, how many carbs they're having. All I try to do is structure it in a more, to begin with, in a more in a more set way, so that we start controlling the variables of the diet, the timing of the food, the types of food, when they have it, and exactly how much they have. And then I just start, then based on how their body starts to respond, it's like, okay, so he's not losing weight in the way that I like, so I'm going to reduce his carbohydrates here. Oh, he's losing weight too fast, or she's losing weight too fast, I'm going to increase something here. Their energy's down, their digestion's bad, maybe I'll drop the protein a little bit, pick the carbs up. So just play with those ratios. But the first diet I give them, for me personally, is just, you know, I think that this is a good weight that we're going to aim at, and this is how much protein I'm going to give you, which is generally, you know, depending on their level of activity, it might be, you know, 1.5 grams to 2 grams of protein. And then I'll usually do something similar with carbs. So it's usually a 1-to-1. Sometimes if they're quite heavy, I'll give them a 1 to 0.75 in terms of, you know, levels of protein to the levels of carbs. And then I'll usually put in, you know, that kind of fats, probably 0.5 of their body weight kind of thing in terms of grams. So, you know, an 85 kilo guy is going to get something like 40 grams. And, you know, whatever, as they go down, as the weight goes down, then the fat goes down. And then I just play with those ratios over the first couple of weeks to see how their body's adjusting, how it's changing. And then that's how we map out a diet. So I was having a conversation with Jordan the other day, and we've had this conversation many times over the years, how funny it is that you structure your nutrition plans and your diets in a certain way, you coach a bunch of people, and then you start to see those plans again. Oh, look, here's somebody at my gym who's doing this plan. Oh, that's exactly how I do it. Oh my God, it's actually, in fact, it's the same amount. Sometimes you can look at the diet and you know who you gave it to. And you're like, okay, oh, that's your coach now? Mad. And it's never been, I've never really cared about it, because I feel like it's not what the starting point is. It's what you manipulate it, how you change it. And it's those things that really make the difference, because at the end of the day, well, those starting points are kind of similar. You know what I mean? It's how your body responds to it, and how well you can apply, you know, your knowledge and everything to that diet to continue to change that person based on experience. So that's how I do it. It's very basic, but the starting diet is always super basic, and then it just changes depending on what their body.
It sounds basic, but it's not basic.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I say there's a lot of complicated thought that goes into simple plans.
So I like I'm just going to repeat what you guys said pretty much, but it might be a little bit different. I had a questionnaire. It's got questions on it. What's your body weight? What's your current diet? What food allergies? Blah 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 blah. Activity, training, whatever. I then look at that. I used to when I first started, for a long time, I had calculations for everything, and I would base everything on calculations. After you do it enough times, if you've done it over 1,000 times, you don't need them anymore. You just know. You look at the physique, you look at how much body fat they've got, how much they weigh, you know how much protein they need per meal. Sometimes I'll calculator. Usually it's around 2.3 to 5 grams of body weight to begin with, and that may go up or down based off how the person's progressing. I mean, there might be days where I run low protein for the day. Like it depends, but whatever. I don't use any formula for the carbs and the fat. I just go by what I think in my head is needed. And then I'll get them to follow that. Like Harry said, they'll follow that for a week. I'll see what their body does and I'll adjust. Follow it for another week, see what their body does and adjust and adjust and adjust and adjust. And like Harry just said, like I see plans all the time from clients or former clients or I'll get like an inquiry from someone who would have worked with the next client, and I've seen their plan and I'm like, they've even copied my template. Like, you know what I mean? I don't care, because it's about so much of bodybuilding is just about the adjustments and the knowing what to do, when to do it. And that's something, in my opinion, like obviously you need knowledge around nutrition and stuff, and you need to know about, keeping a healthy gut and working on metabolism. You need to know how to do that stuff. But so the most important part is just having the ability to know when and what to do, like when to hold, when to push, when to hold, when to push. And that's just something that comes with time. And yeah, people that are copying probably aren't going to know how to do that. So yeah, we're pretty much all on the same page here. So that's good to know. We're all doing the right thing. Well, as far as we're concerned.
Or we're all doing the same thing.
Yeah.
Is it right?
Yeah. I mean, I'm very specific, probably more OCD is not the word, but you know what I mean? Like
detail oriented, we say.
In terms of like, I'm very strict on like food sources, and I am. So I know what I like, and I know like when I like to have certain things with people. Regardless of, obviously, if someone's got digestive issues, it's going to be a bit different. But at the core, like there's still some things I just won't put in a plan because I feel like it's going to disrupt things too much in terms of digestion and whatnot. But other than that, yeah, it's all the same stuff. So Denver, someone's got a question for you, directly to you. They don't care about me and Harry. We're not important here. They just want to know when is Denver competing, and is he still working with that US prep coach? I'm assuming he means Phil.
No, I'm not working with Phil. I haven't worked with Phil for years now. I am working with Cameron Cheek. He is part of Team Jansen, and I started with him about 8 weeks ago. And I'll be honest with you, best decision I've made so far. Honestly, like I know I hold myself to a high standard and quite harsh on what I expect of myself, but having someone to be on that level of detail and consistency and giving me that in return, I'm loving that big time. So when I'm going to compete, and I think I've told Harry this and I've told you this as well, is when I can get to a standard where I can be competitive on a pro stage, then I'll step on stage. I don't want to just step on stage to be like, I've done a pro show. So I'm going to really, really buckle down this year for my off season. And I'm hoping by the end of the year, I've made the improvements I need to in certain areas of my physique, so I can do a show early next year. So early next year is the goal. And I'm going to try and be more, what's the word? Open with how my progress is on social media if I can.
Visible.
And I'm
visible.
Share my journey as when I start my off season.
Yeah, good.
And I feel like it'll help push me a bit and put a bit of pressure on me as well, like in a good way, to level up. So yeah.
And it'll help everybody that I think people that are coming up look to guys like you as like to make them feel like there's an opportunity to do something. Do you know what I mean? So if they follow your journey, it motivates them it gives them hope for their own journey, as it were. Like I guess we all did that at different stages.
Not just that, but it also, like, people don't realize how big this guy. He won't say it, but like it wakes people up.
Well, so listen, I watch the guy's videos or I see photos of him, and I'm like, oh, that's what they got to do.
And he's only making his debut. You know what I mean? So it's
crazy.
Good. It's good. Do it, man.
It's good for New Zealand.
Someone said, I struggle to fill my traps when I'm doing shrugs. Do you have any tips? Denver, I'm going to direct this one at you to start with, because you're the guy.
Honestly, like I feel like this goes across the board for most people I see. is lighten the weight.
Hmm.
Like they lifted way too much, and there's like barely any contraction in the traps. And I'll be honest, like what worked for me the best was stop loading up the bar and like trying to lift that shit with your legs.
Do you have any cue? I know this guy.
What about
He doesn't do that.
What about this?
So do you have any? So he won't be going crazy heavy on his shrugs. He's not doing like 5-plate shrugs. So do you have any cues that work for you?
Okay, biggest thing I felt that helped me was, I think I've shown you this as well, is leaning forward, like and pulling back. It's almost like you're trying to touch your ears. So like I feel like a lot of people stand way too upright and try and pull forward with their delts rather than with their traps. So I feel like if I get them to lean forward like 20 degrees and pull back, I feel that helps a lot, whether it be a barbell or a dumbbell movement, or even on a cable. I feel like tilt forward and pull back, because so much of that trap is more part of your back rather than like forward.
Yeah, middle upper back.
Yeah.
Anything to add, Harry? I got nothing to add to that.
Nah, same. Train
He
lighter, be
deadlifts- he
stricter.
deadlifts anyway, so who cares?
Yeah, just do
Who cares?
do your deadlifts,
Yeah.
do your rack pulls, do all that stuff, and I don't think it's going to be a problem.
So we got 2 more questions. One of them is directed at Harry. They want to ask. I don't know what this means, but it says ask Harry about the plaster, and I want to know what it means.
What is the plus?
Okay, I'll tell you the story because it was funny at the time. When I first started competing, I when you're dieting right down, you've got your immune system's pretty down. Anyway, I had an ingrown hair in my leg, right on the side of my leg, the spot right where, and so it got really infected. So disgusting, I cut it open, caught it out, done it, but I couldn't get it to stop bleeding. So when I competed, this happened like literally within a week or so of the show. So I had to put a plaster on it while I was on stage posing. So thanks. I know who that was.
But that's
would have asked
funny.
that. That's what happened. It was it was like horrific. Thank Christ. I think 2 or 3 weeks later, I did the nationals, and it had healed over, and I didn't need to do that again. Yeah.
It's funny.
Yeah.
It's like the thing about bodybuilding is like whenever something like that happens, the first thing anyone will think of is like it's a bad shot or something like that.
Yeah.
We're gonna have Mandy on at some point, and we're gonna talk about her experience. And Denver, you both know this. She had that glute problem, which was caused from. She'll go in depth about it. I want to let her talk about it, but she got advised by someone to like roll her glutes out excessively to release stuff for her back and blah 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 blah. And then she did it, and she was so lean that like it released part of her glute, but the rest got trapped, and like it looked like she had put something in them. Like that's the first, like if you didn't know, like you both said the same thing. You're like, has she put something in her glute? I'm like, no, of course not. But that's what it looked like. And the thing is, when you're on stage, that's what everyone's going to think. I would think that. And if I saw someone with a plaster on the leg, I'm not going to think it's an ingrown hair.
No, I never stopped copying it.
That's the thing that sucks. But that'll be a good conversation to have anyway. And the last question is, this is a bit of a weird one. I'm going to have to change it a little bit, but it was word for word. Women aren't small men. How do you train them differently? Younger versus older, 40 plus. So I'm just going to it's so vague that I'm going to get rid of the age part. Okay. I'm just going to go men versus women because it's already so vague and there's going to be so many fucking avenues here. But I mean, I train more women than men, and you're assuming it's different. Okay. It might be a little bit different, but so much of it is not any different. Like the first thing you're going to do is break the physique down. Is it a lifestyle client? Is it a bikini competitor? Is it a wellness competitor? Physique, figure, whatever. Okay. What do they need? So I'm going to base the training on what they need, what they specifically need. So a figure is going to be different to a physique, who's going to be different to a bikini, going to be different to a wellness. So if I'm doing a bikini training program, I'm probably not going to give them a chest day because why would I? But if I'm training a physique girl, I will. So it's not like it's the same with guys. Like if a men's physique competitor is going to train differently to a open bodybuilder, when I say differently, I don't necessarily mean differently. I just mean the frequency of certain things will be different, but the actual way people train, well, controlled, as heavy as possible within the rep range to failure, and with full range of motion. That to me doesn't change if you're a male or female. We all train the same. I think the only other thing with females is their recovery capabilities are better, so they can maybe train a slightly higher volume. And then again, just through working with females, I have found the ones who train super hard bury the guys in terms of intensity, in terms of how much pain they can tolerate. But that's a small percentage. And then a lot of the ones who aren't like that might not I find a male and a female in terms of like their effort in the gym is not always the same. But I mean, at the same time, there's a lot of guys who don't train hard either. So that's probably not a best example. But basically, you've got to look at the effort, is what I'm saying. So, like I said last week, you guys didn't necessarily agree with it. But what I do is if someone's effort is not, if they're not training like their life depends on it, they're probably going to require more volume to make up for the not doing that last rep every week. You know what I mean? So it depends on the person, but you can't, I don't think you can, other than like prioritizing body parts. I don't think I mean, maybe for a female, I might keep the reps slightly higher, maybe, but it doesn't change that much is what I'm saying. Just train hard, controlled, full range of motion, and then just be specific with your training split and your frequency. So, yeah.
I mean, I thought same as you, bro. Like, I think at the end of the day, if you're trying to create muscle growth, then that's just how you do it. So what I might do with females is I might actually, keep the weights a little bit lighter in some exercises or most exercises, and the volume a little bit higher. But it's so dependent on the person, and because some people just function better on lower rep ranges, heavier weights. I tend to find women are a lot more trainable because they're not ego driven as much in the gym. So you can tell them this is the strict way to do this movement, and that's how they'll do that movement. But yeah, I'm the same as you. I don't really understand the question in the sense that what's behind that question. Is it, is there, okay, so they've got less testosterone, so maybe the recovery is not the same, but the training principles, everything else is the same. So just got to, just keep it, that's what if you're training to grow muscle, then we know what grows muscle, and it's not different for a guy than it is for a girl. Different return because of hormone levels, general, whatever, levers, everything, but the principles are the same. So yeah, I'm with you, Jordan. It's, you might it might be different. You might train somebody slightly differently based on what their needs are, but that could also apply to, as you said, a physique guy versus a bodybuilding guy, or a classic guy versus a bodybuilding guy, or anybody versus a bodybuilding guy. What do you reckon, Denver?
A bit of both what you guys said. First, obviously, depending on what they're training for, whether it be the bikini, wellness, figure, male and female, female obviously over here, or women's physique, whatever. Honestly, I wouldn't change much about the training, like it would be very similar. But I do feel like with females, to some extent, I do have a little bit more volume in there, because I feel like it's harder to get a female to do those really, really gritty sets where you're like pushing yourself and like you just like every last rep is coming out of you. I feel like they stop a little earlier. Again, this is not all females, but I do feel like they kind of like stop in that comfort zone. So I feel like adding a little bit more volume in there does help progress wise. Again, like I train with my wife every day, so like so there's nothing that like I can do that she can't do. The only difference we're doing is just our loads. And then we do have a few exercises that we vary depending on, because she's training for figure and I'm training for bodybuilding. There's certain muscle groups that she might not need to train. Like obviously she's not going to do a chest day, whereas I will. So I feel like females training very different than males. Nah, not much,
And
that's it.
One thing before Jordan takes over. Like Harry said, it is so much easier to train females. Like there's no ego there. They want the results. Whereas I feel with a guy, when I give them, for example, a leg press or a squat, he sent me this video of him doing 3 plates, and like, I'm like, you barely made parallel with that. You know, like, whereas a female will literally drop down to 5 kgs on the bar and drop that shit to the floor. And there's no issue about it. They you know, so I feel like they definitely are a lot more trainable. And I feel like if we could see that more in guys, would be amazing. You know, like, forget about honestly, the weight. And I keep
100%. I will look at my girls when they send me their like squats and they like burying it, and I'm like, exactly. Yeah, that's what's up. Yeah, you're 100% right. I got a screenshot the other day from a client. She posted she was doing something in the gym, and someone replied to it, and they're like, "Oh, you should do that. Like, you're doing it wrong, blah blah blah." And she just replied, "I'm just doing what my coach says," in a smiley face. And he goes, "Yeah, but Jordan should know this." And she goes, "Thanks, but I'm just doing what my coach says." And then she sent a screenshot, it sent me, and she's like, "Hey, like, is he right, or am I doing it okay?" And I watched it, and I'm like, "You're actually doing it well, to be honest. And you also have better shoulders than he does, so don't listen to him." Yeah, it's you're 100% right with the training, and I find guys just in terms of coaching them, a lot of the time they just can't follow a training program. Like, you'll give them their plan. This is what I want you to do. This is what is going to make you the best that you can be. In terms of movements, sets, reps, and then you watch their stories and like, bro, why are you flat benching 3 reps? Like, I don't even want you to flat bench and you're doing 3 reps. Like, why are you doing pull-ups on chest day? Like, why? Like, I'm just examples, but I see that a lot. They just can't follow a program. Like, they're just changing it all the time, and then you like try and get them to execute in a certain way, and they'll do it, and then the next week it's like back to that bullshit. Like, whereas the females are very receptive to just like, they just want to know they're doing it right. But on the flip side, sometimes that holds them back from putting in true effort. So it's like trying to get that balance of, you're doing it really well, but now we need to really put some like oomph into it.
I've got a client, great young lady, and she if I write down, so I wrote down the, you know, like X amount of reps, whether it's like say 15, 12, 10, 8, right? Peak set at 8, and then a back off set, something like that. So then I'll watch her at the gym sometimes, and she'll have the dumbbells and she'll do the 8 reps, and they'll be relatively, you know, they won't be like hard. And then I'll say, you probably could have gone up, or, you know, like, that's your main primary working set. So maybe you could push for 1 or 2 more reps. And she, yeah, but Harry, like, it just says 8 on the, I just do the 8. And then I'm like, okay. So I went in and I changed it to 8+. You know, I'm like, okay, let me just get into that. 8+, 12+.
I write on the program, like at the top of the program, like notes, and it'll be like, if I've given you 8 reps, but you get to 8 and you can do more, do them. I don't care if it's 7 more, do them and go heavier next week. Like,
next week. Exactly. I'm just like, 8+. That's the joke now when I see her. I go, remember, what are you doing today? And she goes, I'm like, okay, plus. Do the plus reps.
All right, boys. Wait, before I go, if you've watched it to the end, thank you. I'm glad you enjoyed it. But also, please like the video and subscribe to the channel and share it on your Instagram, because it helps a lot, especially the subscribing. I'm trying to get the subscribers up. It helps a lot. And I never really used to listen to people when they said this when I watch YouTube, but now I understand why. So that would be appreciated. Thank you, boys, for your time, knowledge. It's just been good talking, to be honest. I enjoy this. And yeah, next time we do this, we're gonna have Mandy on with us, and she'll I want her to be on here because it'll be good for girls, not just girls, everyone really that's coming up, that has the goal of going pro, just to kind of hear what it was like competing as a pro, the lead up, the expectations, the experience, the expenses, all that kind of stuff. And I'm sure you guys. She was amazing, by the way. She looked amazing. Very good. Well done to her. Very good. So yeah, that'll be our next one. And until then, I'll probably talk to you in about 20 minutes. See you guys. See you, Denver. Take it easy, bro. Thank you, boys. See ya.
Real life, real talk, never fall. We ain't doing that. Want me fall off, but I can't. I'm just too attached. I was so lost, I ain't going back. never fold, never fold. We on the road, yeah.